You grow up believing your creativity is a blessing. Your imagination is praised. Your curiosity is admired. Your ideas light up rooms. At first, you're told you see things differently, and that's beautiful. That the world needs dreamers, that originality is rare. But the longer you live, the more you realize something darker. The world doesn't reward creativity. It tolerates it until it threatens comfort. And once that line is crossed, you are no longer gifted. You are difficult, rebellious, unstable. This is what Machiavelli understood centuries ago. He wasn't an artist. He wasn't romantic about creativity. He saw it for what it really is, a form of power. And all power, when mismanaged or misunderstood, becomes dangerous. There is nothing more difficult to carry out than to initiate a new order of things. That was his warning. And he wasn't talking about kings or governments. He was talking about you, the person who sees something others don't, the one who creates not for attention, but because they can't unsee what they've seen. But let's be honest, being creative today still feels like an invisible punishment. You walk into rooms and feel slightly disconnected. Not because you're arrogant, but because your brain won't shut off. You listen to conversations and think, there's more than this. We're avoiding the truth. You suggest an idea. Silence. You say something daring, and people smile awkwardly. You watch as someone less talented gets praised because they played it safe, because they said what the system expected, because they knew how to fit in, not stand out. And it hurts, not because you need praise, but because you're haunted by how easily the world looks away from what matters. Being creative means carrying weight. It means feeling everything. It means dreaming about things you can't prove, but know are real. It means having ideas no one asked for, but that refuse to leave you alone. It means suffering in silence, because trying to explain your inner world feels like translating fire to someone who's never been burned. Machiavelli understood that society survives through control, not necessarily oppression, but preservation. It protects the status quo. And creatives? They're threat number one, because every creative mind contains something nuclear, new ways of seeing, new truths, new systems, new disruptions. And those in power, whether political, social, or cultural, don't fear violence as much as they fear vision, because violence destroys what exists. But vision? It builds what replaces it. And that's much scarier. Here's what they'll never tell you. They admire your creativity until it challenges their beliefs. They enjoy your originality until it asks them to think differently. They invite your ideas until your ideas question their comfort. And when that moment comes, you'll be called names, not directly, but subtly. They'll say you're too intense, too deep, too much, too sensitive, too unrealistic. Not because you're wrong, but because you're right in ways they're not ready to admit. You'll start shrinking. Not because you want to, but because you're tired of being misunderstood. You'll share less. You'll soften your words. You'll pretend you didn't notice the flaw in their system. And that is the slow death of the creative soul. Machiavelli would have called it what it is: a calculated suppression of disruption, a strategy not to kill the creator, but to exhaust them. So they quit. so they disappear. So they stop being a threat. But here's the paradox. Even as the world suppresses creatives, it feeds off their work. They'll mock your poetry, but quote it after you're gone. They'll laugh at your designs, but sell them when they trend. They'll reject your vision and copy it when it works. Because society doesn't truly hate creativity. It just hates when you have it, especially before they can control it. That's the curse Machiavelli saw, not just in artists, but in philosophers, scientists, reformers. Anyone who tried to shift the world forward was met with resistance, sabotage, or silence. Because most people don't want change. They want the illusion of change, as long as they don't have to move. And your creativity? It moves things. It demands things. It provokes. And that's dangerous. So no, you're not imagining it. That heavy feeling in your chest when you walk into a room and feel like no one gets what you're building? That's not delusion. That's the cost of seeing things others can't. It doesn't mean you're broken. It means you're alive in a way they're not. And until the world is ready for what you've created, your blueprint, you will carry the weight of your way of seeing the world that no one else can replicate. But you? They'll toss you aside the moment they extract what they need. This is the truth behind most creative suffering. You are more valuable to the system than you are to the people running it. And Machiavelli saw this clearly. It is better to be feared than loved if you cannot be both. But if you're creative, they neither fear you nor love you. They use you. It starts when your ideas begin to gain traction. Suddenly, everyone wants to be around you. Your thoughts are so unique. You're a visionary. But as soon as your ideas threaten someone's control, they shift. They no longer admire you. They manage you. They market you. You're no longer a thinker. You're a commodity. In Machiavelli's world of courts and kings, the creatives, the poets, strategists, advisors were always close to power, but never allowed to hold it. Because to rule, you must control perception. And creativity? It destroys perception and replaces it with truth, which makes it dangerous and ultimately disposable. You'll notice this in your life too. You come up with something fresh. Suddenly, they're listening. You write something honest. It spreads. But your name is left out. You build something meaningful. Someone else takes credit. And the moment you try to claim it, the energy shifts. They accuse you of being arrogant, of trying too hard, of making it all about you. But it was you. It's always been you. They just wanted the work, not the soul behind it. Machiavelli didn't believe in idealism. He believed in survival. And he would have told you plainly, never expect the system to value you for your mind. Expect it to extract it and leave you empty. Because the world doesn't know how to hold people like you. It only knows how to use them. Think about the names history loves. Van Gogh never sold a painting while alive. Tesla died broke while others got rich on his inventions. Emily Dickinson, nearly invisible in her time. Machiavelli himself, exiled and ignored until long after death. The world wants what you build, but it doesn't want to face what made you build it. Your darkness, your isolation, your anger, your obsession, your unwillingness to conform. That's the irony of being a creator. They want your brilliance, but not your process. They want your product, but not your pain. You become a tool for their comfort, while you're left wondering if you even belong. And eventually, you stop creating for yourself. You edit your voice. You soften your message. You censor the very fire that gave you power. Because deep down, you just want to be seen, not used, not praised, just seen. And that's what makes it a war. Not one fought with swords or violence, but with silence, with ghosting, with misattribution, with slow emotional erosion. They'll take your originality, package it, put a brand on it, make money from it, and pretend you never existed. Machiavelli would have called this a calculated maneuver. Because if too many people hear your raw truth, if too many follow your vision, you'll become a leader, not just a creator. And leaders threaten the hierarchy, so they cut you off before that happens. Or worse, they give you just enough attention to keep you dependent. You keep creating, not out of inspiration, but out of a need to prove yourself worthy of their approval. And slowly, your passion becomes performance. Your truth becomes diluted. And your fire becomes manageable. That's what they wanted. Not your power, just your potential, drained and domesticated. Here's what no one says. They want your art, but not your ambition. They want your voice until it says something real. They want your originality until it threatens their structure. And the moment you create for freedom instead of applause, they walk away. So what do? You stop giving away your mind like it's disposable. You create for the one person they can't silence. You. You stop waiting for them to get it. They won't. You stop begging for platforms. Build your own. You stop shrinking for inclusion. Create your own orbit. And let them come to you. Because the minute you stop needing them, you win. And that's when they either copy you or beg to join you. It doesn't begin with hatred. It begins with praise. The kind of praise that feels like love, but tastes like control. You're young. You draw something, write something, make something. And they say, "Wow, you're so talented. You're gifted. You're going to be great if you keep doing it the right way." And that's the catch. If. That tiny condition becomes the beginning of your cage. It teaches you that your creativity is only safe when it fits the mold, only accepted when it makes others feel comfortable, only valuable when it produces applause. And so, you start adjusting. You stop creating from instinct and start creating from expectation. You read the room. You measure their faces. You chase their approval like oxygen. And without even realizing it, you begin to kill your own gift. Machiavelli understood how systems operate. He knew they don't need to destroy the creative class. They just need to train them. It is not titles that honor men, but men that honor titles. And in your case, it's not the art that holds power. It's how easily it bends to the room it's shown in. So they teach you. Don't be too intense. Don't be too original. Don't offend. Don't overthink. Just be relatable. Just be likable. And now your imagination, once wild and infinite, has a leash on it. You start editing your thoughts before they're fully formed. You wonder, will this make sense to them? Instead of asking, does this feel true to me? That's how creative self-destruction begins. In silence, in adaptation, in invisible deals you make just to belong. They don't need to reject your genius. They just need to make you second-guess it. And here's where it gets darker. The more you succeed by playing safe, the harder it becomes to break out again. They reward the diluted version of you, the filtered version, the one that fits into their content calendar, their algorithm, their ideology. And you start fearing your original voice, because it might cost you everything you've built on compromise. That's the real trap. You're no longer free. You're decorated, but domesticated. And Machiavelli would have called this the highest form of control. A person convinced to betray their truth without ever realizing they've been captured. You might feel this right now. You're burned out, but keep producing. You're praised, but feel empty. You're visible, but still unheard. You've reached success, but not fulfillment. And deep down, there's a voice inside you whispering, "This isn't what I set out to create." But you ignore it, because it's safer that way. You want to say something bold? You second guess. You want to write something weird? You water it down. You want to build something raw and true? You talk yourself out of it, before anyone else even gets the chance. That's how powerful the programming becomes. Machiavelli would argue, the first method for estimating the intelligence of a ruler is to look at the men he has around him. If your creativity lives among people who fear originality, you've already been conquered. They don't need to censor you. They just surround you with polite expectations, and you quietly obey. What's worse, you start mentoring others to do the same. You teach young creatives to be marketable, to be consistent, to be algorithm-friendly, to keep it short, to keep it easy, to never make people uncomfortable. And now, the cycle repeats. You've become a messenger of the very system that crushed you. This is why so many brilliant minds burn out, because their inner fire was never allowed to roar. It was molded, branded, sold, until it became a flicker. They didn't quit because they were weak. They quit because they were trained to betray the very gift they were born with. And that betrayal, it never leaves you. So how do you escape it? Not with rebellion, but with remembrance. You have to go back to the moment when you created something you didn't show anyone, something that scared you, moved you, felt almost too real to share. That version of you is still alive. They're just buried under all the expectations you've absorbed. Machiavelli wouldn't tell you to be soft. He'd tell you to be dangerous again, to reclaim the part of your creativity that made people uncomfortable, not to offend, but to awaken. He'd say, never attempt to win by force what can be won by deception. And the greatest deception you must now destroy is the one that made you believe safety is success, because it's not. There comes a point where you stop asking, is this good? And start asking, is this mine? Because once you realize the system doesn't care about your originality, only your obedience, you stop seeking permission to be powerful. You stop asking the algorithm if your work is valid. You stop watching metrics like they're your mirror. You stop trying to be liked and start trying to be free. This is rebellion. Not the kind with fists and fire, but the kind that happens silently, when a creative person chooses to create for truth, not applause. Machiavelli understood this deeply. He knew the world didn't need more agreeable people. It needed people who could speak the unspeakable, even if it cost them everything. It is much safer to be feared than loved, if one must choose. But when you're creative, you don't get to choose. You will be feared the moment your art stops catering to comfort. That's why this step is so hard. Because to reclaim your creativity, you must first unlearn your dependence on the world's validation. You must stop feeding the algorithm with your soul. You must stop shrinking your originality to fit their templates. You must stop pretending you're inspired when you're really just scared to be forgotten. Here's the truth, Machiavelli would whisper in your ear. The world doesn't need another content creator. It needs someone who is willing to be misunderstood for the right reasons. That's what power looks like in a creative age. Not numbers, not followers, but the ability to create something true, even when no one claps for it, especially then. So how do you break free? You stop explaining your art. Let it speak. Let it offend. Let it confuse. If they don't get it, that's not your problem. If it doesn't go viral, maybe it wasn't supposed to. If it feels too strange, too raw, too dark, good. That's where real things come from. You reclaim rebellion when you write without watering, speak without scripting, paint without pleasing, build without benchmarking, post without permission. And yes, it will feel terrifying at first, because all your old systems will scream, what if they don't like this? What if it fails? What if I look stupid? Let it. Let those fears run wild. Then create anyway. Because rebellion isn't about rage. It's about refusing to abandon yourself. It's the moment you stop selling your creativity like it's a product and start treating it like it's your language. You don't owe anyone translation. You don't owe anyone relatability. You don't owe anyone safety. You owe yourself the truth. Machiavelli was hated in his time. He was accused of being heartless, manipulative, corrupt, But what most people forget is he didn't lie to gain favor. He told the truth to reveal the game. And you've been playing it without even knowing it. So now you stop. Now you reject the formula. Now you become unpredictable again. You don't tell them what they want to hear. You say what you need to say. And if it rattles something, good. If it breaks their illusion, even better. If it makes you feel alive again, now you're creating like you were meant to. The reason most creatives stay stuck is simple. They never gave themselves permission to offend the familiar. But you're done apologizing. You're done editing your edge. You're done trading your truth for reach. You're done measuring the weight of your message by the attention it gets. Now you measure it by one thing only. Did it shake something real inside you? If the answer is yes, you win. Even if they don't clap. Even if they don't share it. Even if they never understand it. Because you didn't create it for them. You created it to free yourself. And freedom is the one thing they can't profit from, which is why it's the most powerful thing you can ever express. Machiavelli believed in power, but not the loud, arrogant kind. He believed in silent control, the type that makes people move without even knowing why. And he would have said this: the creator who stops seeking belonging becomes the most dangerous force on earth. Because the world can only manage you when you're still hoping to be accepted by it. That's the final curse of creativity. the longing to be loved by people who only loved your potential when it served them. But the moment you choose to let that go, you change. Something inside you burns away. But Machiavelli would have told you, he who builds his power on the truth will be hated first, but followed forever. That's what makes your creativity immortal. Not the numbers, not the reach, not the trends, but the fearless truth buried inside what you made. A truth so alive, it speaks without needing translation. Think of every creator who changed the world. They weren't the most popular. They weren't the safest. They weren't even liked. They were the ones who finally stopped asking, will they accept me for this? And started declaring, this is who I am, period. This is your sign. No one's coming to save your gift. No one's going to hand you your worth. No one will ever fully get what you see. And that's okay, because they weren't meant to carry your vision. You were. So what now? You stop performing. You start remembering. You stop marketing your heart. You start moving from instinct again. You stop trying to be viral. You start trying to be real. Because real lasts longer than any trend they'll forget next week. And you stop needing their praise to prove your work was worth doing. Because it was. It always was. That's the moment your creativity becomes unstoppable. When you no longer belong to anyone, not to the system, not to the crowd, not even to the identity they gave you. You belong to the work, to the fire, to the moment that breaks silence and says, this is me. If this video hit you deep, like it. If you're done creating for comfort and ready to create for truth, subscribe. This is Psychatic, where you stop asking who you should be and start remembering who you always were. And if this called out the part of you that's been hiding, drop this in the comments. I'm done hiding my gift. Because the system can't break what it can't control. And the second you remember that, you become everything they tried to silence.